So if I had a bugle, I'd be playing that song that the guy plays, you know, for the army. Well, this is the deal. In order to even express our gratitude, to recognize the areas in which we find ourselves being grateful, guess what? We got to wake up. Wake up. That's what this is about, this self-reflection idea. Wake up to your life, you see. We have to wake up. Gurdjieff, he's a philosopher and a wonderful master, spiritual teacher, did a lot of work with the Enneagram system. Gurdjieff says our normal state of awareness is kind of asleep. Kind of asleep. So ask yourself right now, am I kind of asleep? Am I not really too present? Am I not really fully connected with what's going on right now? Gurdjieff says we all kind of go through this ho-hum experience of just sort of coasting through life, sort of asleep and not really tapped in, not really connected, not really awake. And when we're asleep, folks, to our life experience, guess what? We're dumb. There's an ignorance around our experience of life that begins to reflect itself in the way we show up and in the way we experience our life circumstances, that we don't remember who we are. We're not remembering who the other folks are. Like Glenda said, we're not remembering our connectedness with all that is. There's this ignorant thing going through it, this ignorant thread moving through our experience when we're not awake and connected to our experience. So to even have the capacity to be grateful, we got to wake up. We got to broaden our vision. You know, so much of our life, like Glenda said, we're so spotlighted on whatever's going on in the moment. And we forget to broaden our vision big enough to see a bigger reflection of what's going on and how we fit into that, you see. How we fit into that. We get stuck in these, like Llewellyn Van Lee says, we get in these little crystallized perceptions of ourselves and other folks and our circumstances, this tight little box, this like concretized. And then, boy, once it gets like that, guess what? It's very hard to crack ourselves out of that kind of a mess. It's very difficult to open that little glimmer up and begin to see something different, that you know, reflection that shows us a different aspect of ourselves or the other or our situation. Who we really are sometimes is so buried underneath the stuff of our experience or our ignorance or our asleepness that we don't even really know who we are. I love the lyrics of the song by Stevie Nicks. You know, so deep in this whatever, I choose to think that perhaps this cocaine addiction might have been the impetus for this song. So deep in this self-deception that we forget who we are. But there comes a moment when we, through grace, like the book that we're using, through grace, we get a new perspective. And once that happens, we get to move in our life experience in a whole new way. The Wisdom of the Enneagram, the book by Don Riso and Russ Hudson, friend of Common Ground and personal friend of mine, says, without self-knowledge, we will not get very far on our spiritual journey. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know your divinity, if you don't know that you are that essence, that radiance that God is, you're not going to get very far on your spiritual journey. And you're not going to be able to sustain that awareness if you don't know who you are, if you don't take time to wake up and do some self-reflection. So I picked this image. Don't you just love? Okay, so this is the invitation, everybody. Perk up your tails, pop up your ear, and look at yourself. Become alert, awake, just like this little dog. Take this image of this dog with you today. This is how I want you to go through your life. This is your January assignment. Go through life like this little dog. Wow, look at me. What's this all about? You know, he's not asleep to life. He's really present. When we're really present, we understand how to live our full radiance, how to live our God selves. We have to practice conscious looking. We got to practice looking in the mirror. We got to practice looking at our stuff. Practice looking at the way our lives are showing up. Much of spiritual tradition and psychological tradition talks about witnessing ourselves. We've got to witness ourselves, catch ourselves in action, on the spot, in the moment. Whoa, is that me? Did I do that? I remember Urkel from television program. Did I do that? Did I do that? Yeah, well, sometimes we do those things. And when we have the capacity to have self-reflection, we notice it. We see ourselves in action, going, oh dear. And when we have the capacity to be self-reflective, guess what happens? When we live an examined life, all of a sudden, we start to bring down that shell, that automatic wall that's there, where we function on rote, where we just have this automatic way of showing up. These automatic, as Eckhart Tolle would call it, these ego repair mechanisms that, come up, like pride and ego and fear and anger and all that stuff. All of a sudden, we start to see how that stuff is working in our lives, and we observe it, and we see, maybe that's not who I am. Maybe I'm really not, it's not necessary for me to be that angry, judgmental person. Maybe it isn't necessary, this is a big one for me, maybe it isn't necessary for me to be so darn picky. Maybe I can let a little mess over here slide. We look, now if it's not getting in the way, no big deal, right? If it's not a problem, if your pickiness is not a problem, no big deal. But when it starts causing problems, you better look at it. See? You gotta look at it. So we catch ourselves right now in the act, and we try not to judge ourselves. We try to bring the forgiveness that we like to give everybody else to ourselves, but we don't make excuses for these things that are showing up a little bit unskillful, where we're making missteps in our life experience, you see. We catch ourselves right now doing whatever it is we're doing and go, maybe not. Like Glenda and her experience with some of the judgments that she had with her son-in-law, finding a new perspective. Catch yourself when you're having that thought, that idea. Oh yeah, that's right, I want to have a new perspective here. I see myself acting in this way. See, there's a big difference, and this is the thing, we're asking you to be present moment oriented. Present moment oriented. When you are present moment oriented, you're in your heart. You're less likely to be in your head analyzing everything. Now, when we do shadow work in therapy, and Miriam is the therapist, she'll affirm this. When we do shadow work, often we're going into the past, we're digging up stuff, trying to figure out what happened. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a present moment observance of how I'm showing up now in this moment. We can do shadow work, and we must do shadow work. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this heart awareness, not an analysis of what went wrong, but this heart energy that sees it in the moment as it's occurring. The current view of how I'm showing up. And doesn't mean that just because I've always viewed this thing in this way, I gotta carry that on. I can make a shift just like that. I can change my mind just like that. I can get a new, that's why beliefs are so funny. Guess what? If you are in the Buddhist tradition, you know. Guess what beliefs are all about? Beliefs are meant to be examined, and if new evidence comes up, change your belief. Many of you in this room have come from religious traditions where you've had an opportunity and an invitation to revise some of your beliefs, like you weren't born in sin. You weren't born in sin. We get to change our beliefs. See? We can make those changes, and self-reflection is what we bring forth in order to do that. And once we are able to see ourselves in action, to see the way we're thinking, to see the way we're showing up in respect to the other people in our lives, our relationships with each other, once we can see that, something births itself, which is insight. We get this incredible gift of insight that allows us to live our radiance, to live the halo that we wear, to live that. Oh, I don't have to be mean-spirited. I can be kind. Oh, I don't have to be judgmental right now. I can be allowing. Oh, I don't have to be picky. I can let it be. It's hard. It's hard. So it's all about moving from the head to the heart. And it's this self-knowledge that helps us correct those mistaken ideas of who we are. I'm not that angry person. I'm not that unforgiving person. I'm not that judgmental person. I have the capacity and all of the things I need within me to make a change on the spot. And you know what? It's not about asking what's wrong with me. What's going on here? What are the problems? It's not about that at all. Current psychology and the current psychological model says we identify our strengths, our radiance. Where are we strong? Where are we shining our light? And we focus on that. Yeah, maybe an example in my own life, yes. Now I'm coming into my 27th year of sobriety. That's pretty exciting. 27 years without a drink of alcohol. That's exciting. Now, I'm not identified. I talk about it because it's helpful to anybody who's struggling with this idea of addiction or alcoholism. So I talk about it from the platform, but that is certainly not my identity. That is not who I am. That is not who I am. That's not what's wrong with me. I'll tell you what, that's what's right with me. That's where my strength, my courage, my wisdom, and my hope lies. That's what's right with me. I made an in-course correction. I saw where I was misstepping and where I was unskillful and where I was unhealthy, because those of you who are in that path understand this. And I got well. Okay? So it's not about what's wrong, it's what is the strength here? What strength do we have? Where can I make a correction to move me in the direction of my greatest radiance, where I can be the most beneficial presence on the planet and live it in the moment? It's a simple practice. What's going on right now? What's going on right now? And then you know what the invitation is? Just do the practice. This entire month we are inviting you to do a practice. Today the practice is specific. We're going to be teaching this little mini workshop. And Glenda said it's what have I given, what have I received, and how have I caused these, what have I done to cause problems. I also would like to invite you to think a little broader, and it's how have I received? How have I given? How have I caused inconvenience for others? How have I made things difficult for myself and others in the world? Sometimes the how is a big question. The what's we can identify. It's the hows that get a little more difficult. So just bring attention to whatever is arising in the moment, and that becomes the experience of your self-reflection. That becomes it. And then what we get to do is we get to keep doing the practice like I've done for almost 27 years. We keep doing the practice that leads us in our greatest, holiest, most sacred direction so we can live our radiance. We do the practice until it's integrated. Until it's integrated. And we constantly have to look in that mirror with our tail up. Let me tell you, after 27 years almost of not taking a drink, every day, guess what? I get to be that dog, and I get to go, not today. I get to poke my tail up in the air, and I perk up my ear, and I look at myself in the mirror and say, no, not today. Not today. It's a practice, and we have to integrate it. And this is what I want to share with you as I close. Living Deeply, a book that is a compilation of many different spiritual teachers put together by the IONS organization, Institute of Life Sciences. Take this home. This is what I want you to remember. Who you are now, in this moment. Who you are now and what you have now contains all you need for a richer, fuller, and more joy-filled life. Nothing to gain. You're not missing any piece of it. When we live an examined life, the way we see the world and our place in it begins to shift. New possibilities emerge from the very same landscape we already inhabit. We just have to wake up and see it. So your invitation is to join us this afternoon. Come do some work in the mini workshop.